Hey everyone, I'm here to show you how to make our pickled quail eggs along with pickles. It's a huge hit in our household. We do have quail on the homestead, and so we get tons of eggs every single day. And honestly, it's a little hard to get through all of them in one sitting. And so we like to pickle them and make them into different types of snacks, deviled eggs, things like that. But our favorite way is definitely pickling. My husband is already actually in an entire jar that I had made, as well as he has picked through almost all of the quail eggs in here as well. So they're a huge hit. They go by super fast and they are a great high protein snack, especially in the evening. You're really craving something and you don't want to snack on chips or anything. This is a really healthy snack for you to have. So we absolutely love them. They're a huge hit. I'm just going to show you guys the process of how I make mine and the recipe that I used at that time frame. I do like to change up the recipes, try different types of peppers, try different types of seasonings, and things like that because it's fun and why not? So come on, I'll take you guys along and show you guys how to do it. Okay, so first things first is you're going to need to wash your quail eggs. When it comes to washing your quail eggs, you can wash them however you want, but I like to wash mine in vinegar. I just put a little bit of vinegar at the bottom of the bowl, fill it with water, and put all my quail eggs in there and allow it to soak so that debris comes off of it. You can also use soap as well, but I just like to use vinegar. When it comes to the peeling process, it is going to take a long time, so make sure that you have time on your hands. You can invest in a quail peeler, and honestly, it probably is totally worth it because I've seen the videos and they look fantastic and they make the process go by so much faster. Because as you can see, this takes quite a long time and they are so little and you really have to just take your time to make sure that you don't rip any of the eggs because you don't want to use any damaged eggs in your pickling process. Those are all of the eggs that we got. We got a ton of eggs, and so that will fill up our jars. The next process is going to be cutting your cucumbers. So you can kind of cut them however you want. I personally like to cut them pretty thin. When we use them on hamburgers and things like that. So we don't want them to be super thick. So you go ahead and just cut those right up. The type of cucumber really doesn't matter. I personally just used a normal, like big size cucumber. There are pickling cucumbers that are much smaller, and those ones you can buy specialty at the store, and they do work really, really well. But I just didn't have that on hand, so I just went ahead and used some cucumbers that I got at the market. I'm going to be changing up my recipe a little bit. This time, I'm actually going to be using Poblano peppers instead of jalapeno peppers, like I normally do. And I just kind of want to see what it tastes like. This is also what I had on hand. I didn't want them to go to waste. We weren't going to use them this week. So I knew that I needed to use them. You're going to want to use also garlic. So you'll go ahead and peel that garlic, get that all done as well. And these are the jars that I use. So I absolutely love these wet jars. They are my favorite. If you're unfamiliar with them, they are actually from Germany and they are not so much of a United States based jar like the brand Ball is. But I personally love these a lot more. I like the clips. I like being able to reuse the seal and the lids. And I also love to drink out of them. And so for me, they are multi purpose for sure in this household and heavily worth the investment. They are more expensive, and it's because it's all glass. You're not dealing with any metals or anything like that, which for me, the metals always rusted. I didn't really like that. So glass was the best thing for me. The next step after you finish cutting your ingredients, you're going to slowly fill your jars. So I personally just like to cut one thing, fill the jar, cut the next thing, fill the jar. And that way it keeps everything non contaminated. It just keeps it nice and clean because my jars are sterile. And then after I'm done filling these cucumbers, I'll put the lids back on and then move on to the next ingredient to cut. When it comes to filling your jars, you don't need to do it any specific way. You can actually just throw them all in, to be honest. Some people swear by layering them, but I personally just fill them up. And then once they're full and the lids are on, I make sure that they are well incorporated and mixed really, really well. And so you won't have to worry about that whole process. So the next thing is going to be moving on to the next ingredient, which is going to be our pepper. So I don't know if you've ever seen the trick, but when it comes to cutting peppers, my hands always are very irritated and they burn. So I saw a trick where if you cover that hand that is going to be mainly touching the pepper with some oil, it actually helps with that burning and the pepper juices, I guess, getting all over your hands. For me, it totally works. And I absolutely love that trick because that was something I struggled with all the time was my hands would be like burning after I cut a pepper. For my other hand that's cutting with the knife, I will not put oil on that, so that one will probably get a little irritated after cutting and dealing with the pepper, but that is a great, great trick. So when it comes to slicing and dicing and all that kind of good stuff, honestly, you can just cut it however you want. I like to do a medium cut, so not super, super small, but not also super big, just because we will actually repurpose these. So when they're pickled, we will actually take them out and then cut them up and put them in salsas and things like that. That's what we love to do with the jalapenos that we normally use. But with this poblano pepper, it's going to be just as good on any salsa or anything like that. So that is about the size that I cut them to. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the garlic. So with the garlic, you really don't need to cut it or anything like that. You just need to make sure to remove absolutely everything off of the garlic. So the entire little papery stuff you want to completely remove, and then also cut off the bottom part that has the where the roots come out of. So you definitely want to cut that off. You don't want that to be in your pickling juice at all. Once your garlic is completely good to go and ready for the jars, you can go ahead and start throwing everything in. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my garlic. I usually like to have 2 to 3 cloves per jar, and then I'll do a handful of the peppers per jar as well. So depending on the size of your jar will also determine how much you put in. So for the little jar, I put smaller garlic cloves in there and just a little bit of peppers. Compared to my bigger jars, I put 3 large garlic cloves in there. So once that's done, then it is going to be spices and egg time. So we'll go ahead and we'll put all of our eggs in. Once again, this is just kind of like a preference. So I am making the small jar just the eggs. And then I'm going to make the 2 larger jars with the cucumbers. And that is honestly just because I don't want to use a ton of jars. I don't have a ton of space in my fridge, and these are going to get eaten so quickly that it really doesn't matter if I use different type of jars. And then that way, we're also getting yummy pickles for hamburgers and things like that, as well as poblano peppers that are pickled for our salsas, along with pickled quail eggs. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1. You're not having to do all of this work just for the eggs. You can also get a lot of other things out of it. So here you're going to add your bay leaves. So the bay leaves actually help keep the crispness of the pickles. So, or I guess of the cucumbers that turn into pickles. And usually it is 2 to 3 bay leaves per jar. My bay leaves, they were all crushed. And so I had to kind of improvise and use like little pieces. And then I went in and got my new bay leaves and put a few of those in there. The next thing is going to be the coriander. So I used half a tablespoon of this and I just put a little bit in the smaller jar. I didn't put the whole entire thing. So next thing is going to be mustard seed. So once again, I just did half a tablespoon of this in each jar. And then I used half a tablespoon of black peppercorn in each jar as well. Then you can throw in some red chili flakes. You can honestly use however much you want. This is going to depend on your preferences for spiciness. I still used half a tablespoon because my husband loves it spicy. And then here I put in paprika. I actually did not end up liking this, neither did my husband, but it still was yummy. But I would not recommend doing that because it just didn't taste quite as good. Then you're going to go ahead and throw in your fresh dill. This is super important. I tried using freeze dried dill. That way it was easier. I always had it on hand and I had an abundance of it. But honestly, the fresh dill made a huge difference and it just makes it taste a lot better, as well as the freeze dried dill. made the dill like absolutely everywhere. Like it was covering everything. It was very overpowering. Next step is going to be making your brine. So, for our brine, we really love it to be very sour. It is probably our favorite part. And so, I use 4 cups vinegar to 1 cup water. So, 4 parts vinegar, 1 part water. Other people, they'll actually use the opposite. They'll use 4 parts water, 1 part vinegar. So, it just kind of depends, once again, on your preference and how you like your pickles. When we have pickles, we like them to be very sour. So, this is why I do it like this. You're also going to need to add in your 2 tablespoons of pickling salt with this. So, pickling salt is different than just normal salt. You really do need that special pickling salt. So, you'll pour that in there, let it fully dissolve, and then you're going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of sugar. So, it's not going to make it sweet, it's actually going to balance the acidity perfectly. So, you definitely want to make sure that you add that so then it has a balanced flavor. Now it's time to just put everything together. So you're going to go ahead and start pouring in your brine with your quail eggs and your cucumbers and all of your ingredients. Super simple. This part's really cool because it really starts to come to life. You start to see all of those flavors mix, all the spices start to adapt to the water and take over the jar. So that's everything. That's how you make pickled quail eggs. These are not shelf stable. I did not go through the canning process with these, so these will be good for 3 weeks in the fridge. If you do want to can them and make them shelf stable, then you can go ahead and go through that process as well. But that is everything. I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you want to stay until the end, my husband is trying this new recipe that I made, and he's picking out which ones he likes more and all that kind of good stuff. See you guys next time.
Okay, enjoy away. Is it good?
Yes.
I like this one better.
Okay.
I was just about to say that. I like that one better.
See hamburger with that spiciness.
Mm.
Oh, and guess what? We're making hamburgers Friday night, so these would be bomb.
Dude, if I can't get another egg soon, I'm
No,
gonna
there's one
freak
more. I
out.
see it.
Oh my god, dude, I'm freaking out. I need the eggs.
You just spilled the